Welcome to Called to Homeschool with your host, Meg Thomas. I am a mother of 7 with 5 homeschool graduates. Each week, we'll talk about real life homeschool, mindset shifts, and practical tools you can use in your home. Because homeschooling isn't just about school, it's about restoring the family. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Called to Homeschool. Hope your summer's going well. Can you believe we are already in July? It's kind of crazy. Our summer has been exciting to say the least. My second daughter just flew out last Thursday to go to Mexico to learn Spanish. She'll be there for about a month, and then she'll be heading to the Texas El Paso mission for the next 18 months. So a lot of change, a lot of dynamic changes in our family, and I just cannot believe how fast time goes. It is a thief. But I do feel very blessed to have had my girl home with me for so long, and all the time we got homeschooling before she has left the nest. So I know a lot of you are in the thick of things with a lot of kids. Like, I don't know, Meg, that sounds amazing to only be homeschooling 2 kids. And those days can feel really long and challenging, but keep going because you don't regret the time you got with your kids. So anyway, let's move on before I start crying again about my kid leaving. And let's answer another question for the podcast. This is from Maria from Florida. And she says, I have a 1.5-year-old toddler wondering when to start homeschool and should I just focus on playing with her at the moment? Thank you. So what a great question, because I've gotten questions a lot about toddlers, and especially I've heard people before like, my toddler's really advanced and so maybe I should really push them. And I think a lot of moms feel pressure to start early. I know we see preschool everywhere. We're like pushing kids to go younger and younger, educational toys, toddler workbooks. And it can feel like we're not actively teaching our children and that somehow you're falling behind. But I actually think the opposite is quite true. So let's dive in today. So your child is learning. Learning does not happen magically at age 5. It begins the day they're born. They are learning so many things. Language, relationships, curiosity, confidence, emotional regulation, habits, responsibility, long before they ever learn to read. Now, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, and I'll just talk about part of it. But with Thomas Jefferson Education, it divides childhood into different phases. And the very first phase is the core phase, which is from birth to about age 8. And it talks about in this phase is a great time to work on building character, relationships, habits, and a love of learning. I cannot tell you how important these phases are if you really want to create children who love learning, have great habits, relationships, and building their character. So the goal during core phase is not academics, but it's building the foundation for everything else. Core phase focuses on things like security, family relationships, work, play, exploration, imagination, responsibility, routines, and good habits. Now, you know I am a huge fan of good habits and of teaching your kids amazing habits, and I've been doing it all month long on Instagram and Facebook of summer skills to work on habits with your kids. And so I was going to talk a little bit, just a quick little tangent of some habits you can do with this younger age. So anything 8 and younger, but this is even little toddlers, that some skills that you can be working on. So I have them divided into different categories. So the first one is self-care, teaching things like brushing their teeth, getting dressed, washing hands, cleaning up after themselves. Let me tell you how helpful all of these things are for the future. Putting dirty clothes in the hamper and making their bed eventually without help. The habit of contribution. So helping to cook, obviously within their range, right? Setting the table, feeding pets, picking up toys, watering plants, folding simple things like washcloths, putting groceries away. Children love meaningful work. A lot of times they don't want fake jobs. I know my sister was with her grandson and he was gardening with her and she got him a fake shovel to help with her in the dirt. And he got mad because he wanted the real shovel, right? They want to help with the real job and do a lot of the real things. And so we just really need to involve them as we are doing some of these. Another great habit to focus on during this phase is the habit of attention, listening while someone else speaks. And that is great of teaching them to not interrupt, to actually pay attention, right? So many great things with that. Being able to look at a picture in a book, finishing a short story, completing a simple task before moving on. This builds the attention that they are going to need later for reading and math. And you know I love Charlotte Mason's idea of small and simple lessons so that you can build upon it. And so I love that idea. Habits of curiosity. And it's so interesting because when we push academics really young, sometimes we can kill curiosity. And lots of times kids ask why about 1 million times a day when they're little. And so that's really fun to play around with that, right? And not just shutting it down, but lots of things you can do, like, why is it like this? Why is it like this? So you can find a video or a book or asking questions. What do you think? Ooh, why do you think that happened? What do you notice? Because curiosity is the engine of learning. And I know there's an amazing quote out there from Einstein about curiosity. So go and look that up. Habits of perseverance. So not rescuing immediately. So when a puzzle is hard, let it be hard. When their tower falls, okay. When they can't zip up their jacket, you don't need to rush in and hurry and zip it. Encourage them to keep trying. Learning how to work through the frustration is incredibly valuable, and it's going to help them in so many different areas of their life, not only academically, but if they try different activities, right? Learning an instrument, doing a sport, when they get frustrated, that they are already learning the skill of, I can do hard things. I can figure this out. So important. Habits of order. This will make your life so much easier when they learn that everything has a home, and putting something else away before they get something new out. Finishing one activity before starting another. Resetting the room when you're done. Organization reduces chaos later, and that is a great skill to have. Habits of respect. Saying please and thank you. Waiting for a turn. Can I tell you how much when you have, especially if you have more than one kid, learning how to wait for their turn, so important. Speaking kindly, right? So not getting mad and angry and yelling at somebody. Learning how to listen, taking care of things around your house like books and toys, and respecting other people's belongings. Habits of reading. Now, this may not be them reading, right? But reading with them and reading every day, not because you're trying to really force them to be an early reader, but because you're creating somebody who loves books. Habits of wonder, getting outside, looking at bugs. If you just go slow and go at a child's pace outside, there's so much wonder there of looking at the birds and the grass and a flower, of just being able to take time to slow down and notice things. And anything Charlotte Mason that is a big Charlotte Mason fan would approve of this. So here's another good one that we sometimes skip we don't think about until it's a problem that we're like, oh, I got to read. But emotional regulation. So what if your kid can read it too, but they scream at everybody and are having the biggest tantrums ever? But they have habits of emotional regulations. They learn to calm their bodies. They learn to apologize. They can try again, and mistakes are part of learning. And the last one, and this is also another Charlotte Mason one, is obedience. And sometimes obedience isn't a popular word today, but it's important to find that I don't mean blind obedience, but learning to respond respectfully when mom or dad gives a reasonable instruction. And I actually go through this in Mama's Members, right, of teaching them how to disagree in a way that is very respectful and in a way that allows them an opportunity to express what they're thinking and what they're feeling, but still having that opportunity to learn obedience, because sometimes they just don't understand things. So obedience. These things matter far more than memorizing letters at 18 months old. And it's interesting of how many adults you know that you're like, you could maybe benefit from a lot of these habits, but yes, they passed high school. So it's interesting that these habits are really going to help you have an amazing life and be able to learn things and figure things out. So these matter so much more than having your little 18-month-old knowing all the alphabet. I mean, you can totally sing songs and whatnot, but will make your homeschool run a lot smoother as your child gets older. So you have to remember with homeschool that your home, your life, everything homeschool, and simply letting them do life with you. They are cooking beside you, in the garden, folding clothes, stirring pancake batter, going shopping to the grocery store, helping clean, watch you solve problems. They are learning. You don't have to manufacture learning. They are just gleaning it by just being with you. And I often say, as long as you're not just sticking them on a screen or in front of the TV and ignoring them, just by including them is such a powerful way to be teaching them, especially when they are young. And to not forget that play is serious learning, because play is a child's work. While they're building blocks, they're learning engineering, balance, persistence, creativity, fine motor skills, problem solving. When they are pretending, they are developing so much creativity, language, imagination, so many amazing things just by playing. Also spending time to read. And I already said this with habits, but this would be the one that you could do so easy. Little kids love to be read to in the daytime, before a nap, before bedtime, reading beautiful books. fun books, books that make you laugh, books that you can joke about later, right? But reading every day, talking about the pictures, asking questions, and laughing together. This is building vocabulary, attention span, while creating positive memories around books. So, one of the reasons I love Charlotte Mason is she believed children are whole people. Education isn't simply filling a bucket with facts, it is nourishing the whole child. So, she encouraged living books, nature, art, music, poetry, beautiful idea, short lessons, plenty of time outdoors. These things are perfect for toddlers. So, if you thought about this with living books, and this can even be like there's picture books that are just absolutely beautiful, but also ones that are just fun and silly, right? Nature's so easy with little kids. They just always want to be outside. So many things with art that they just naturally love to do. Crayons, markers, painting, going outside with sidewalk chalk, right? Or something that you could paint the cement with that's just kind of fun that you're creating. Playing music in the house is so easy. With poetry, nursery rhymes is so fun to do something with that rhythm, right? There was an old woman who lived in a shoe, right? And they just have a rhyme and a rhythm to it. And it's so fun to have these poetry and these little stories. So all of these things can just be part of how you are playing with your child and being with your child. And they are learning so much without it being a formal lesson. So then the next question is, when should I begin formal lessons? But you have to remember every child is different. Don't look at a calendar. Look at your kid. When they naturally become curious, is a time to maybe think about doing more formal lessons. When they ask for more, when they enjoy sitting with you, introduce tiny lessons, short and sweet. And don't forget that playing with them counts a lot of times as your lesson. When my kids are really little, we play the game Sorry, and they learned a lot about counting, and they could read the numbers because they wanted to play the game, right? Candyland has colors, so many different games that you can play that are just normal games that they are learning so many things. I bought on Amazon for my little guy when he was this younger age, this little set of colored bears and cups. And we would play with those bears all the time. And he would sort them by colors. So we were learning colors. We would count them. We would play with them. We did so many fun things that we called school that were just playing. And he absolutely loved it. So you want to do really short lessons. If 5 minutes is too long, go shorter, right? And you stop while they're still enjoying it and you leave them wanting more. And one of the biggest mistakes I see parents make with young children's is they confuse early with better. Pushing academics too soon can actually make your child resist learning. Your goal isn't to create an early reader, right? So that you can impress your neighbors or pat yourself on the back. Your goal is to create someone who loves learning. And that is a much bigger win. It looks kind of cool when a young kid is reading, but what about when you have teenagers who love to read, right? Or adult children who still love to read. That's really, really cool. So remember, childhood is not a race. Nobody gets a trophy for finishing kindergarten first. There's no prize for reading at age 3. Most people don't even know when they learn to read. I know I don't, but I can tell you I can read really well now. So it really, we put children on such ambiguous tracks of you should know these things by this time, but as soon as you're 18, you can learn it whenever the heck you want. So there isn't a prize for getting things done by a certain time, but there's enormous benefits to preserving wonder, to protecting curiosity, and to allowing children to develop at their own pace. So, practical ideas with a 1.5-year-old. If I were homeschooling an 18-month-old, I would focus on reading together every day, singing songs and nursery rhymes, letting them help with simple chores and creating rhythms, getting outside and looking at birds, bugs, flowers, playing inside, outside, blocks, puzzles, pretend toys, lots of cuddles and connection, keeping them with me, just having them participate with the things that I'm doing. Focusing on good habits, because that is a rich education. And I know it's easy to wonder, especially if this is your first, if you are doing enough. But remember, your toddler doesn't need a curriculum. They need a mom. And they need stories, play, fresh air, meaningful work. They need to know they're loved. Those are things that create lifelong learners. I truly believe that if you spend these early years building connection, curiosity, and a love of learning, the academics will come much more naturally later. Don't rush the season. Enjoy it. It's laying the foundation for everything that comes next. Have an amazing week, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening to Call to Homeschool. If today's episode was helpful, the best way you can support the show is by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more homeschool moms find this work, and I appreciate it so much.